because they don't want you to recognize the correlatives. Because you'll start examining things and see that your concepts about this politics is incorrect. Are we clear? Presiding over the greatest reorganization of any bankrupt entity in world history. Bankrupt entity? I thought we were talking country. Bankrupt entity? Oh, I thought it was country. Entity? Oh. In world history, the U.S. government, we are setting forth, hopefully, a blueprint for our future. There are some who say it is a coroner's report that will lead to our demise. It is an established fact that the United States federal government has been dissolved by the Emergency Banking Act, March 9, 1933, 48 Statute 1 Public Law, 89-719 declared by President Roosevelt being bankrupt and insolvent, House Joint Resolution 192, 73rd Congress in session June the 5th, 1933, Joint Resolution to suspend the gold standard and abrogate the gold clause, dissolved the sovereign authority of the United States and the official capacities of all United States governmental officers, officers, and departments, and is further evidence that the United States federal government exists today in name only. So you got imposters that's been running this game, and these people keep talking about and the government, and what we're trying to do, and we're trying to stop, and who you going to vote for, and they got imposters because they allowed it to happen. They're so busy robbing us and institutionalized servitude that they lost the republic. This is only the coming out of the closet party, which took place in 1871. Do you see? So now when you start putting things in correlation, you start understanding the assassination of Jesus. Well, you can do that too. Assassination of Lincoln, assassination of John F. Kennedy for trying to bring the gold clause back in. That's why they killed him. Do you understand? You start putting these things in order. So you're not blinded when you know the real history. When you know the real chess pieces, you know what they're doing. People who don't know the real history get caught up in emotional arguments. Yeah, and what we got to do, good brother?
My brother.
And then what we got to do is march for jobs and, stupid things. And they know daggone well it's not going to work because there's other things at play. That they know are at play, that these people have no power on. They're going to march and, appeal to their moral, emotional compass and, let's give them a peanut butter sandwich or two. Not really. They're trying to genocide the people. They're not interested in, people just won't accept that they're expendable. Because they've been given this God, God values you so much and just loves you. And they start that, and everybody get confident. Meanwhile, their aunt's hanging next door to them on a tree because they're going to take her land that you're supposed to get an inheritance. Don't worry, because the cops are not going to get, because her pocketbook was a weapon. And she resisted.
Like the little 17-year-old, remember she went in?
Oh yeah, the little girl. The girl, when the police department asked them for help, they shot her about how many times?
I don't know, too many times.
Yeah, what's the last week?
We missed that.
Yeah, asked them for help. Yeah, shot her about. They made Swiss cheese. But they know they can get away with it because it's the gangs of New York. People don't even know that the police department is the gangs of New York spread across the country. Their job is to enforce the contracts for the corporations, not to protect the people. The people are the food. They don't believe it though. And all of these rituals they have on the street of murders, it's because they want their organs. Because I think they get, $20,000 for a liver? 20,000 for a kidney, right?
Yeah, kidney.
And they get 2 of them,
Yeah.
right? The liver, the heart, if it's not too good, they can get the, if the aorta's good and stuff like that. They've been doing it forever. That's why they usually kill young males. They're strong. Hey, it is. Wait, let me hear my ID. It was an AK-47. Just 2 inches. They know they ain't going to jail because they're deputy knights for the Pope under the Treaty of Rome. But the masses don't know that, so it confuses them. How could the cops do this? They're police officers. They're not officers. They weren't elected by anyone. They're private contractors. They have fun, you know, doing them Western movies. You know, they come over, you know, you've been farming, getting your thing together for a minute, right? We want your ranch. We're going to sell your ranch because we're going to bring a railroad through here. And we're going to give you $5 an acre. Well, you come up with that stuff. Take it or leave it. We'll be back tomorrow. And they come back tomorrow and you don't sell, so they hang you and they take it. Or they go poison the wells, then they take it later. It's the same thing with, that same thing that you see in the Western movies is honestly exactly what the police department is. They're even used to gentrify neighborhoods. They come in there, they bring the drugs in, then they kill people. They know everything that's going on. Always been that way, never has been other than that. Problem, people have been in denial. Do you understand? They're afraid or whatever, but they're still in denial. And then for us to act like we're doing things to help the community dealing with the symptoms, it's hypocrisy. And it's only because they feel helpless, which also proves that their God has no power. But then they don't want to accept that either. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. So, as an example here, the receivers of the United States bankruptcy are the international bankers. Via the United Nations, World Bank, and the International Monetary Fund, all United States offices, officials, and departments are now operating within a de facto status. What is de facto? De facto is a legal term which means it looks like McDonald's. It's got yellow sneaks. I think they're sneaks. Oh, it's got burgers. You know, they're aborted babies mixed with kangaroo and a whole bunch of other animals. Thought those burgers taste funny. You think he's really Mickey D? Yeah, he's Mickey D. No, he's an imposter. So is the food. And the hospital served them. They disappear a lot of youth through the year. And they're in slaughterhouses. And the aborted babies go there too. That's what Roe versus Wade was all about. They needed a new food source. And they could genocide the people at the same time.
Are you saying people are eating people?
Huh?
Yes.
Sure. And then they use the, for the babies, they use certain parts of the body for makeup. You know, for cosmetics.
She didn't see the movie.
Yeah, for cosmetic.
She didn't see the movie.
Huh?
She didn't see the movie.
Movie.
What's the name of the movie?
Sawyer Green.
Yeah, Sawyer Green.
I didn't see it
You see it?
Pull up
Pull,
Rabbi
go
Feinstein.
home, pull Sawyer Green, right?
Feinstein,
And come up with the movie.
It's,
You Google it.
Wait, take a minute, take a
Sawyer
minute.
Green.
Sis got this thing covered.
yeah, but Finkelstein.
She got the U-box. Y'all know about the U-box, right? You know about the U-box?
I'm gonna pull out the just the.
I ain't pull out my magic wand.
I'm not pulling the
She
U-box,
said
I'm pulling out the internet so you can.
I'm just gonna pull out the other one.
Taj,
Yeah.
you know about the movie Sawyer Green, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But
Soybean.
but on a serious tip, we have to really understand the politics
Green.
of what's really going on, because you're not going to solve problems pretending that, you know, just your goodwill and, you know, soothing somebody. You know, so like, you know, lay on the railroad tracks, train goes, let's learn to heal the muscles. And then lay back down. Come on, stop. Stop. Let's deal with the root source of the problem. Now, understand, go ahead.
You could go on the internet.
Say again.
You wanna go on the internet with that? Is what you were trying to get me, so you could, internet.
But yeah, I wanted you to, yes, if you can.
No, you have to go to the internet.
Oh, yeah, I can get it on here?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Hey, you're tough, boy.
Just look for the, you have to look for the, whatever it is that.
Oh, you're,
Yeah. And that right there. You're already on there, okay? Is it you on there? The
Connected
second,
with
take,
limited.
take the next one.
This
That
one?
Yeah.
all right.
Oh, well.
But anyway, so one of the major things I'm expressing to you, if you're doing some good in the community and you're really having some successes and thinking that because you're good and you're doing good security stuff, well, they're watching you. And then they send the dark priests to undermine everything you do. And it's not a what you call current thing because of the moment. It is an automatic. It's structured within everything. It's pervasive. If you got an electrical instrument, any electrical instrument, computer, watch, anything, it is already backdoored, not going to be.
Right.
It is their mission.
Just call that, I don't know what you call it.
Home.
Call it home.
I don't need to do this, right? I can just come out and go back in.
You should be able to.
Yeah. Now what you want?
You were the one.
Oh, all right.
No, no,
Is it Finkelstein or Finkelstein?
What is?
What is it, Finkelstein or Fink?
You said Feinstein, man.
Is it Feinstein or Finkelstein?
Moshe.
Frankenstein.
Let me see.
Rabbi
Not
Fein.
this one. All right, let's go back.
McDonald's
Let's
burger?
go back.
A rabbi talked about McDonald's. Rabbi McDonald's. Dang it.
All right, here we go.
What?
Every time you see the golden arches, it's gonna make you sick.
Want to know more about where you're staying? Find the answers with 43 million reviews.
Skip the ad.
43 million, 1 and 2 and 3.
I don't have my speaker systems, so just try to listen a little bit. So, you know, and they know, just like as we're talking, these people are so contaminated that they think this, you can tell them the truth, and because we've been such the hypocrites that they can just open up, because even to deny it, the hypocrisy is there.
But now I rush.
How long will you be with them?
Seven. It's not that you Jews are hiding anything. You're coming right out on television, in the newspapers, on the radio, and you're telling the people exactly what you're going to do before you do it, and they're like they're brain dead. Well, we did a good job with the public school system. We got you to put all of your children in there. You notice that the Jew doesn't put his children in there. They go to the Hebrew Academy, where we teach them the real things, and then they go to the synagogue and they learn the real important things. But we send your kids to the public school. We even have you tax yourself for your property so that you never own your property. And so if you guys don't make your property tax, we're going to take your property. You can bet on that. Then we have you put your kid in a 12-year babysitting is about all it does because you don't learn anything. And then by that time, the kids, they get to be teenagers, and then we give them the music. Not that we really want to call it music because, that's not music. But they listen to that, and then they want to do what they want to do, and so we sell them drugs, and we make a lot of money off your children. Your children from cradle to grave, all we do is make money off of them. You're cattle, you're goyim, human cattle, muscle talk. Well, that's very interesting, I understand that, but I also know the bloodletting. I know that on your Passover, which isn't mine, that a lot of little children do disappear, and I do know that, and I know a lot of police departments and agencies have been informed, but you're very open tonight. I'm very surprised that you're talking about the bloodletting of the little children, that you put their blood in the matzo balls, and that you eat it on sacrifice on Passover. Well, there was a Koyam that wrote a book about it back in the 30s. I forget his name at the moment. But anyway, he wrote the book. People didn't buy the book. People don't want to listen. We've been doing this for thousands and thousands of years, since down to Adam's time. So we take the children of our enemy, which is the white race, and we bring them to the basements in the synagogues, where we drain the blood and watch them die there. It's very similar to how we do the sacrifices that we do with the kosher butchering, and so we do that, and then we mix it with the Passover bread, and so we eat the blood of our enemies, and the bodies, we're not cannibals, so what we do is we take those, because we can make some shekels, then we give them to the slaughterhouses, and those are pounds and pounds and pounds of meat that we grind up in the sausage and the hamburger, and that's why we made those the most popular things, sausage for breakfast and hamburger for lunch. And so all the goyim out here are really eating their children, and even when we say this outright and tell you people, you don't believe it. So that's your problem. But you goyim out there, you never teach yourself. You don't self-teach. You're always looking for somebody else to do it for you. So you wind up being schleppers all your life.
Now, Mickey's ain't suing.
So they tell the truth.
Hey, think about it.
So, and using their symbol, they ain't hiding it.
And I thought that was a Jewish company anyway.
Well, it is, because it
You know,
is.
so I
But
guess
it's
they
not.
wouldn't sue.
See, but don't look at it from the perspective of religion like people look.
Right.
Just understand the politics of the world. You understand? The dogma is what the masses get caught up in, those ridiculous arguments. It's designed, you know, and they don't have to hide anything because really the people are guilty, because the people have been contaminated for so many generations that they can't point the finger at them because they've been a party to this stuff. It is no different than they take those politicians, take them to those, you know, orgies with children, etc., and they become parties to it.
Right.
They can't tell because then how come you didn't tell before? Because they're party to it. All of them are. But it's not, you know, and so when it comes to like really curing anything, they're not going to because they're party to it. But anyway, just down a little bit more in this congressional record. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but I just want to go to this. The Federal Reserve System says the Federal Reserve that they set up for Skull and Bones, that was with Woodrow Wilson, etc., right, is based on the canon law and the principle of sovereignty protected in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. In fact, the international bankers use canon law trust as their model, adding stock and naming it a joint stock trust. The U.S. Congress had passed a law making it illegal for any legal person, quote unquote, to duplicate a joint stock trust. And this was done in 1873. The Federal Reserve Act was legislated post facto to 1870, although post facto laws are strictly forbidden by the American Constitution. They're telling you that they've set up a corrupt order. This is congressional records. This is not secret.
Post facto, is that after the fact?
Yes.
Okay.
In other words, they just make up stuff and create a debt on the people that didn't even exist. In other words, what they've done, they created corruption for themselves, served themselves, and then charged the people with it, and then call it a national debt when actually they're a private company, corporation, they're not the nation. And this is, even so, when you see the bluntness of the rabbi, what he's really talking from, you know, we can kind of be a little bit offended by his frankness, but he's frank because he already knows everybody's thoroughly corrupted. You know, and so they give them what they want in spades, and they're benefiting from it, so why should they, you know, mean that, and like he said, you know, they won't study, they're schleppers, you know, want everybody to do stuff for them and everything, feed them their own babies. You know, because they don't feel sorry for them because they know they've been going around the world killing other people, doing the same thing to other people, and so that's what he's, you know, it's really what he's saying. He's saying, you know, these, you know, frontline hypocrites pretend to be so holier than thou. Yeah, you've been doing it to everybody else, and now you discover that you've been eating your own children. Now, yeah, you have. Go to McDonald's, have some more baby loins. Because he already know they're so thoroughly corrupt. Their front, their whole image is a pretext. And that's really what he's saying. So you want to talk about us, look at you, that's what he's saying.
Yep.
And you're so hooked on it now that we got you.
That's right.
Go ahead, good brother.
Prophet, let me ask you this. The rumors that are floating around more than usual about extraterrestrial or
Diversion again.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why.
Is there any truth to the fact that people on these conference calls are saying, well, there's more activity in the skies. I'm seeing ships. I'm seeing.
Yeah, how about them seeing the IRS? How about them seeing the mortgage company that's taking their houses? It's another diversion. Now, number one, there's been multiple species. Anybody think that there's only we're in the universe is out to lunch? Yeah. They've been with us here forever. Some was on this planet before we were here. If anybody was going to eat the left side of your brain and replace it with the right side of your brain, they would have done it. Half the stuff that happens to people are military ops, including kidnapping, transfers, etc., using technology, straight wave technology, etc., mind control. It's not new. A lot of stuff that they used on human experiments during the Second World War, they're using right now. As a matter of fact, that's what King Alfred is, that they're used to target us. Do you want to go back into something?
Yeah, based on
Yeah.
what we talked about, back to the
Go ahead.
Well, you said King Albert.
King Alfred.
Alfred. Is he still living? Are we talking about?
In other words, it's like this. See, the devil thing doesn't work too good anymore.
Yeah.
So now the Greys did it to you. Now the lizards. All of these other species have been here for millions of years. Why all of a sudden, now that their system's collapsing, particularly they robbed everybody, and now the economy's getting ready to collapse, and they can't figure out how to. So now they got all these false flags. Germany's turned to east, so all of a sudden their plane crashes with 150 people. It's BS. You know, now, oh, the Greys are going to eat your children. You know, it's like, they've been here all the time. If they're going to do something to us, to the negative, they would have done it.
Yeah.
You know, and see, so if you look at them, then you're not looking at their priest and the IRS.
They're not even talking about that.
Diversion. And it doesn't mean that those things aren't real, or that means that's not the argument. It's a diversion.
This lady.
Can I say this 2 times? If they were going to help, they would have helped before, right? They're saying they're going to help us. So if they were going to help, they would have helped us already,
They've been
right?
helping themselves to everybody's wealth and then genociding them.
But some of the aliens are already destroying the nuclear bombs and things around the world. They're what do you call it? They're making them so that you can't shoot them, so that we won't destroy ourselves.
That's what they're saying.
And what's her name?
It's a nice thought. I mean, you're asking, are they doing nice things around the world?
Yeah, but how do we know that? That's part of the argument that Taj is talking about. How do we know they're doing that? We don't. We don't know they're de-stroking the bombs. We don't know that. They say that.
No, airmen say that they see flying saucers come to a warhead, shine it with a light, and then the warhead doesn't function anymore.
I never heard that.
You can find them on YouTube and places like that.
Nations or nations of concern. Then there would be asteroids.
What this is in response to what you're saying. This is the lady. She's the one telling you how they, Warner von Braun had already said in 1970 something what was getting ready to come up. They were going to hit us with. And then there's another video of her where she literally talks about what you're saying about what these were so-called. They got this thing on about September 2015. It's going to be an asteroid to hit the eastern coast and everything is going to be.
Well, they got the Pope coming to Philly and shit.
You know that they can create. See that evidence. She's talking about that this flaming fragment. I mean, they're blowing up somebody's home in Argentina and all in support of their. Life imitates art. Then first they put the movie out.
Yes.
So they tell you what they're going to do.
Look, Steven Spielberg, who's all in that stuff.
A few minutes ago, the United States ambassadors from every country in the world told the leaders of those nations what I'm about to tell you. Last summer, 2 comets were discovered in the orbit of the sun.
Distraction.
on weapons technology. They are consultants to the Defense Department, CIA, NSA, and world-renowned think tanks.
The technology necessary to project three-dimensional images to a point in space requires no new breakthroughs in science. We have the technology now.
You said they hold things back until a point in time.
Yes,
When they,
for control purposes.
like at fearful sight, the great signs, so they want to back up scripture that's predictive. They're projecting this stuff. So they're setting us up. So when they do drop some bomb, they're going to say it was an asteroid. And they're doing a heart and whatever else new technology. Plasma ball. They're going to call it a meteor. And I think the biggest thing about all this stuff is not to be fearful of this.
Exactly.
You provide energy to it. We need
So
to
that's the whole point. They're vampires. If you understand how things work, you stop falling for the game.
Right.
Anything that's going to eat you, don't threaten to eat you. It eats you.
Right.
Stop.
So, this stuff is like, that's the same thing I had to do in 2012.
So we're asking every person, what do you want your life to be about? Do you want your life to be about something real, or do you want to fall for all this fake stuff?
People have been so spooked that they don't even if they say they want their life to be real, they don't even know what real is.
Oh, yeah.
No, they don't.
You know, and then when you look at it, like, people don't even know their makeup.
Right.
They're confused by their natural tendencies because they don't know how divine law works, and they're usually guided by things advertised to them that they should desire to be, and they always are in conflict because they're contrary to the nature of the creation that their mother made them in. So they're out of harmony, and then it creates more sickness. Then you ask them, what do you really want to be? Wrinkle an eyebrow because they really don't know, they're confused. And they start thinking about things they desire, and 9 times out of 10 it's out of harmony with how they're made. Their mother made them with ingredients from the heavens. It is called the different stars. And they should be measuring the mathematics of it and reading their makeup so they can know who they are. Because that's really religion. Rebinding to the principles or the spirits of their ancient mothers and fathers.
I don't think you look at this, but I just wanted you to see that there's a lot of stuff out there.
Yes.
And let me start this.
That's a good point though, Taj. To build on that. They know all this here and don't know that.
They do know. See, the deal with what they don't teach. See, what I just said is part of real religion.
I mean the children.
Yeah.
They know all this here and don't know that.
Yes.
Right.
Just like when you, like, say, if you look, they'll give you some of the codes, like in the books, like in the Bible, Quran, or Waspi, something like that. It'll say things like, look around you and know that I'm a God. That's a statement. These signs I leave for you, the sun, the moon, and the stars.
That's right.
And then the preachers will turn around and say, guys, the devil's stuff.
Yeah, that's taboo.
And it's right in the same book that they're talking about.
All that
You know what I mean?
That's
And
taboo.
then the same ones that will deny that, right, like MDs, will have a little wheel in their pocket adjustables, and they'll plot their operations on the movement of the moon, so that the patients don't bleed to death, and they'll do them in clusters. Why don't they just stretch them out? Because they already know cosmology, the study of the universe is true religion, not some belief system. The math of the universe.
So you saying
energies.
So you saying like if they're going to operate, they know the cycle of the moon.
They always do.
Yeah,
No,
so
they
ain't
always
gonna operate then. Yeah,
They always
absolutely.
do. Midwives who deal with nature look at the movement of the moon, the cycle of the woman, etc. How many women are in the house? Because their cycles will adjust. If a woman, like, see, she don't have daughters, right? and their daughters come move with her, whatever their cycles are, after about a month or so, they're all going to cycle close, because that's how nature works. Now, so if one of her daughters is having a child and everything, she's going to look at the daughter's chart to see what her character is, and see what the character of her mate is by the energies that their mother put in them. And so that's going to tell you what you're going to get out of this thing.
Wow, that's,
You know what I mean?
fact.
Yes.
Because my mother, it was 3 girls, my mother, and it was 3 sisters, and the cousins, we all was born around the same time. They all lived together.
Okay.
You know, my aunts.
Yeah, because they cycle.
That's right.
That's right, because that's how nature works. Now, you're supposed to know that because it's supposed to be taught in religion. You know, so this is just like when you see look at book of genetics, right?
Yeah.
Genetics. Yeah, genetics. When you see the birth of Yohan and Yahshua, right? And the angels or the angels were administrating to Mary and Elizabeth, who were cousins, because these sons were given an assignment before they came here. So they were educated in the womb. That's called the applied science of the number 9. That's ancient culture. And the elite always use it. That's how they rule the world. And they keep it from the masses so that they're always the dummies.
That's why in what do you call it, over in England, they kind of schedule when the birth of their very...
They always do.
They always do. I just wanted y'all to get the name of this lady. You don't have to look, Doctor, put her, if you just, Carol Rosen. She has got this woman here, R-O-S-I-N.
Yes.
And she will, if you Google her on YouTube or whatever, live.
She's an award-winning educator, author, space and missile defense consultant. And
she worked with Warner von Braun.
Which is probably where you all know her from the Disclosure Project.
And
where she talked about.
But when I, every now and then I run into, remember the other woman that had the information from the World Bank. Karen, yeah. So she's one of those kind of people that you might want to listen to, because she dispels a lot of it. She corroborates what's real. Like, we've always had others here, but, and like Todd said, if they wanted to destroy us, they would have already done that. But if we persist, not we, but they persist in weaponizing space, they said they out of here, and y'all on your own.
One of my job descriptions at Open Minds is to share part of my story. But I want to say first, it's just an honor to be here with all of you, because you have such courage, and I know that you have more background than I do in a lot of these UFO ET related areas. But I've come here today to not just talk about myself, and please know this is not about me at all, even though I'm going to share a lot of it. I'm going to present to you something that I think is the most important document I have ever seen, and you will be seeing it for the first time. And of all people, you deserve to see this, and I hope that somehow your hearts will be touched by this as mine has been. Because the people in this room, to me, are the most important people I've ever met, and I hope I can meet many of you, all of you, if it's possible. On Facebook, under my name, I'll have a link to this document that I'm going to tell you about in a few minutes. And an Indiana University student, Aubrey, just called and said that she set it up on a new Facebook site. Open Minds is going to have it on openminds.tv on their website. And I just can hardly wait. I'm bursting into seams to tell you, but I'm going to start by thanking first Open Minds for opening my mind, and so many others, and inviting me here. And Paula Harris, who encouraged me to come, otherwise I probably never would have gotten on the plane. And so many other people, Dr. Stephen Greer, who with his wife took me to lunch one day in Washington and said, you have to tell the Von Braun story, at least part of it, because it's an important part of this. And I was ready to just die with it all. And since I've been threatened, my husband and I have lost everything.
See, that's what you said.
We've had a lot happen to us over the years to try to shut me up and people like us up. And unfortunately for the people who have tried to do that, if you're in the audience, bring it on.
Go!
Because Because like you, many of you, I've had it. And it's time for the truth. And as my husband, John Cipher, the retired actor, said at the beginning and at the end, he actually concluded the disclosure project by when a journalist asked him, actually, he asked Stephen and said to Stephen Greer, if even one of your witnesses is telling a lie, if they're not telling the truth, and this discredits the whole thing, and my husband said, Stephen, do you mind if I answer that? My husband's usually pretty shocking. He takes direction, he does an acting thing, but in person. But he got up on the front, on the podium and said, no, if only one person here is telling the truth, if only one person in this room is telling the truth, my God, what's going on? Disclosure has taken place. What are we doing here? We're just here to hear more truth. But I'm going to present something to you that's going to activate all of us, I hope. Because we have one chance, and I think it's now. And I'll tell you why I even think that. Just before I came, there's an article that you may have read that's going around in the paper. Perhaps they heard about this conference coming. But now the article is about how the Pentagon wants to rule defense allies in space. What they're saying is, they want to strengthen the ability to use the weapons in space as an uncharted battlefield in space. Get it? Imagine what that's going to do to our issue here of the extraterrestrial beings, the off-planet cultures, the cosmic cultures, my God. And they're talking about the importance of satellites for waging and deterring war. This is their language. It's so bold. And a lot of people are buying into this, and I bought into it. I was a 6th grade school teacher with the classroom that wanted to get off the planet. We were in a flood area in Orlandria, Virginia, saying, how can we study if our area keeps getting flooded? I was swimming around in the streets one day telling the firemen where the people were in the houses, where the children lived to get them out of the flood zone. And look what's happening all over the planet, the climate changes, the people suffering. 500 million orphans, and people still having children? How are we going to handle this? I mean, a lot of us have enough psychological problems going on from our own life stories growing up and what happened to us as children and so on. All these orphans. And the changes in the planet's Earth structure itself. We're in deep, you know what, and we have got to deal with these issues. And guess what? That we have the highest technology and the highest consciousness. We are able to solve these problems on the planet. But there are powers that be that are determined to stop us. I'm just going to back up for a minute. I'm going to skip around because I've lost my notes. I wrote them for months and months to come here, and they're gone. So, my husband and I just got back from Ecuador. We lived there for a few years. I was working with the president of Ecuador. We were a couple of weeks away from the Minister of Defense himself, who was assigned to me from calling world leaders to come in to sign a treaty. We had bought, my husband and I, a hotel, built a conference center to have this meeting. We bought a farm across the road with a crop circle. We bought a home, guest houses. I have a horse sanctuary for abused horses. And we were infiltrated. The president's office was infiltrated. You read about it. There was a border war in Colombia. And he fired the Minister of Defense that I was working with, the Fort Top military guys. And so we had no security. And then it happened in the little town that we were in. A big farce happened. Well, you and I have, I know, experienced betrayal at some time in our lives, but even some of my friends were spreading a discredited campaign. Why? Who knows? Are they jealous, greedy, egomaniacs? Are they paid off? Who knows? But what we do know is, you and I have been blocked from the truth. We live under a canopy of lies behind a veil of secrecy. And thank goodness for meetings like this where the truth is coming out. And there are people here, I understand, they're still skeptics whether this is a real phenomenon or not. Forget it. If you don't believe it by now, you ought to go home. So, now we have the truth. It's been disclosed, and we have some incredible speakers here. I can't wait to hear them myself because I was one of those people who I still have never read a UFO book, an ET book. I apologize because I know like Paula Harris, I have her book. I had Stan Friesen. Paula has these beautiful interviews in her new book, and I haven't read any of them because I didn't want to be tainted. I wanted to be able to come with my own true story if and when I ever came out with it, so here goes. From teaching school, where my classroom was launched into outer space, and Fairchild Industries called me and said, hey, you know, they needed a woman to be pushed up the corporate ranks, and I had great legs, so they took me. And now I'm taken into the Office of know much about him, but I do know he's German, and my father wouldn't even buy a German car at the time. And so I walked in, and I was speechless, obviously. I'm not the type that's usually at a loss for words, but I could not talk when I sat across his desk, and he said, you know, Carol, I couldn't teach 37 children, but I had a dream at 14 years old of going into space and finding out who we really are. And that was his whole theme when I met him. But I've met people along the way now who say, oh, Carol Rosin, she must be a Nazi lover. I have been told and seen myself written up as a Nazi lover, a Hitler lover, Werner von Braun. I'm supposed to defend this man that I met that's one of the greatest visionaries of our time, that actually set off the space program. Of course, you'll see him in some of the peace groups he set off the B-2. Well, that's true. I have a picture of myself hugging a model of an A-10 bomber airplane. I mean, some of us, and I know some in here too, have worked in the military-industrial complex, and I have worked in that revolving door game. And so did von Braun, and he planned the escape to come to America, the land of the free and the home of the brave. Well, we are brave. Free, I don't know so much about. But I know that I have been called a CIA agent, an FBI agent, a KGB agent, an agent of the military-industrial complex. I'm a pathological liar. I eat dogs. There are so many rumors that I have heard. I'm the Matahari of space. Ha! And I've been written up this way. Somebody wrote an article one time that said, if Carol Rosin told me she was doing something right. And it's ridiculous. Yeah. There's such a discredited campaign going on, and it included about Werner von Braun. And we have to stop this gossip. And if one of you goes out and gossips about me, this is my natural hair, and I don't have it like this to attract attention, then don't talk to me, okay? I don't want any more negativity coming at me or anybody else in this room. We have to stop that gossip column, please, because we're discrediting ourselves, we're backstabbing everybody. It's not working. And I'm going to give you something that can bring us all higher into a higher frequency that Werner von Braun would have loved, because his whole vision was to go into space peacefully. He worked in the weapons world, so did I. He worked under Hitler. Can you imagine? He said he tried to save some of the workers from having to work all those hours. They were told these guys were rocket scientists, and they were not there to kill people. They wanted peace in space. This was his whole theme. That's how I met this man. He took me into his office, and he was dying of cancer. And he wrote on a piece of paper, I wish I still had it, he was scribbling while he was talking to me. I was brought in for a 5-minute meeting that lasted for over about 2.5 hours, kept shooing people away. And he thought it would be great if a woman took on this issue, because he said nobody would close the doors on me. So now he's scribbling on this piece of paper, and at the end of talking to me, he handed it to me, and he had tubes draining out of him, and he was given 3 or 6 weeks to live, and he said, I'm going to stay alive to teach you what the real game is, and you have to go out there. And I can't tell you how many times I have quit. Some of the people here know, because I wouldn't even sign the contract here until just a couple of weeks ago. I'm so vacillated about even coming out again. Von Braun was writing the word humor on this piece of paper. He in little circles, and he said, you have to keep your sense of humor. If you don't, this is going to kill you, because this is so serious, what's going on. The game in the military-industrial lab, university, NASA, and other space industries around the world, intelligence community, governments, complex, it's all inexorably linked. You can't even blame any one of them for what's going on, because it's all part of it. It's called jobs and profits. And there is a way to create them bigger than during any hot or cold war time. It's about space. And I know there are people here like me who say, why would we even be going into space as technology? We shouldn't even have it. We have so many problems and suffering going on the planet. Yes, but the problem is we're already there. There are thousands of satellites up there working right this minute. Space stations with 16 countries working on it, and more plans for space, a space hotel. I mean, it's incredible, a space elevator. And we could have, instead of battle stations, space hospitals. When astronauts go into space, there's no gravity, so they grow a ½ inch to an inch. Think of the bones and the body, the solutions to healing and health that we can learn from that kind of information. Space hospital, it sounds bizarre, but the choice is a space battle station. Which do you want? Because we don't have a choice now. Now the choice is battle stations. It says it right in these articles. I have a couple of copies. If anybody wants it, I'll post it too. We can build space hospitals, space schools, labs, farms, industries. We can build hotels, space elevators, lots of spacecraft. And the choice at this stage, when I started talking this way in 1977 when Werner von Braun died, people looked at me like I had landed. And maybe I have, because I have an inner drive like you do to find out the truth and tell it and change it. The changing it is where we get stuck though. How do we change this game? Before I came here, my husband stood at the airport at 4 o'clock in the morning in Medford, Oregon with his hands on his hips saying, "Why are you going again? Don't you know what's happened to us already?" I ended up, after leaving Ecuador for my so-called friends and the infiltration, in the hospital with a heart condition, with the doctors looking over me down at my husband saying, "We're amazed that she woke up. She's got to get to the United States. We don't have the technology to measure her heartbeat that's gone off the scale." And I ended up in a heart hospital in the States with the doctor saying, "You don't have heart disease," which is what I thought I had. They said, "Every time you say the names of certain people and certain incidences, your heart goes off the chart." And so the head of the hospital, the doctor, Demo, came in and handed me this piece of paper, and he said, "You see these pills this other doctor gave you, did you take them?" And I said, "Well, I tend to take them because they made me take the bottles, but I never swallow them, so no, I haven't had any. I'm trying for alternatives." And he said, "Well, don't take them. Do you want to throw them away, or should I?" And I went, "Oh my God, am I dead? I mean, what is this?" And he said, "No. You have to go out and meditate for 2 hours a day. You have to eat a Mediterranean diet and go vegetarian." And he started giving me this thing about how to be quiet and how to relax, and I'm here. So the alternatives worked. And even the head of the heart hospital said, "You got to meditate. You got to concentrate on these other healing methods." And I thought, we're under so much stress. A lot of us here, too. Think about what Werner von Braun must have gone through. The ridicule factor. How dare anybody say something negative about that man when he planned the escape to come to this country? Of course, most people don't know that. So I understand. Okay. And yes, he worked as a Nazi. But that man designed a space program and got somebody like me involved. I was a teacher, child psychologist, which probably helped my working in the military industrial complex. But anyway, he was incredible. And I'm so moved by that man that he changed my life. He gave me the assignment to prevent the weaponization of outer space. How bad could he be? And yeah, we all have our backgrounds. And if anybody in here is absolutely perfect, I want you to come and introduce me to you, because I want to see who you are. But this man really was unbelievable. And guess who one of his best friends was? Timothy Leary. Do you remember Timothy? Harvard professor, several doctorates. Woke a few of us up. And yes, I've tried it all. And my brain isn't burned out any more than his was. I took him to a doctor 2 weeks before he did deanimate, as he put it. And the doctor said, "Wow, his brain is normal," much to everybody's surprise.
Marijuana?
And here was Timothy Leary. I spent the last 6 months of his life with him. He honored von Braun in his book called The Intelligence Agents, which I called Timothy about. I met Timothy in the 60s. And somebody took me to his house, and I remember him patting me on the head saying, "Wow, isn't she cute? A school teacher's come to see us," in his big mansion with people running around naked outside with teepees and paint. And really important people in his house. And he said, "Here, just take this little piece of paper and put it on your tongue." Well, 3 days later, anyway, I learned that you could see through walls. I could see my circulatory system. No wonder they had x-ray machines invented. In fact, I met them who invented MRIs. A lot of us were introduced to alternative states of consciousness, to higher frequencies, to this little teeny bit of brain that we use, and to what we can do, thanks to Timothy Leary. And so I want to honor him too, because that's one of the people. And then Terence McKenna, who taught us about mushrooms talking to us. Sorry, but these are things that really woke a lot of us up in those days. And Buckminster Fuller. I played the world game with Bucky Fuller. He put me in charge of space. So we really looked at what could be done in outer space and how it could benefit the Earth in terms of providing solutions to urgent and potential problems. That's what this space technology and information sharing is all about. To me, it's actually being classified under this veil of secrecy and canopy of lies, but in fact, we have the tools to solve the problems of hunger, of the environment, of poverty, of education, of enhancing communication, of observing the planet. We have the solutions thanks to this space technology, much of which is being hidden from us, and many of us don't even know about it. So I'm mentioning it to you now, and I'll show it to you in this document too. Bucky Fuller knew about it. This is one of the another great man on this planet who actually wrote the book Spaceship Earth, How to Live and Run on Spaceship Earth, How to Live and Work in Outer Space. I met a lot of those people, I won't have time to mention, that were working on that issue in the complex, who were conscious about it, but needed their job, just like today. So Bucky Fuller led me on to the United Nations because he was playing the world game in between. I worked on the 1st Earth Battalion. Many of you know Jim Channon. Jim Channon created, and I was a 5-star general. We took it all seriously. And we actually created projects. I went to Russia practically 30 times. I was commuting. And I was going back in the days of that drop-off. I got on the plane. I hear I was the first woman by myself who went there, not as part of a contingency of any kind, saying, what do you all want to be run a communist for? And I found out about 1% of them were. And then I met with several. I finally got up to the days of, I don't have time to talk about it. Oh, there's a letter that I wrote to Gorbachev in a book, Dear Mr. Gorbachev, where I said, please say that you will never work on missile defense because it's really the first stage of space-based weapons. And he did say it. And I found over the years that if I wrote to Russia, in fact, it's one line of command there. So you can get answers back. Unfortunately now.
How many layers we have?
I don't know what's going on.
She said one line, you can get answers. For us, it's like bureaucracy.
Still don't get
they want to work on missile defense with the United States and these other countries. This article, I mean, this is ridiculous.
They lie so much about these different countries.
The
United States is government.
Yes.
They made us feel that everybody was the enemy, when a lot of them were really working for peaceful solutions, and that's why they villainize.
You know, we can raise our consciousness and get smart enough, and we have to all.
They want to put weapons in space so they can control everybody from a military standpoint.
We have an alternative now that's technologically, politically, socially, psychologically feasible. It's economically feasible. We have an alternative way that we can go that will transform the entire war industry into a space industry and acknowledge the reality of who we really are on this planet. And that's what you're going to hear about in a few minutes. So I went on now to go, after Von Braun died, I thought, where am I going to go now? I quit the industry because I would have had to work on the A-10 bomber airplane. And I went on, I had learned a lot about public relations. Timothy Leary, I said, what's the most important thing in the world to you? And he said, PR. Good or bad PR, you can get your messages out. I learned a lot about all of this in the industry and what the game is that's played. So I went on to work at TRW because they needed a woman, a 6-man woman on the, team of the MX missile. So I worked on the MX missile. The job creator was about jobs.
All right.
And through that, I met Congressman Joe Moakley.
So you all got a name, right?
Carol Rosen, R-O-S-I-N.
Yeah, I got the word down.
Because I go on.
Hey, but in whole, what did she pull out and show us?
There was a document in 2011 that was presented, a treaty to actually stop the weaponization of space, and it really was also in agreement with some of the, what they call
proliferation?
Not the people that were not from this particular planetary rock.
Galactic cultures?
Other galactic cultures, to get them to not weaponize, because they basically have always been here too, and their thing was, like he said, if we wanted to eat you, you know, we would have. It's always been a peaceful kind of oversight, and we could work together, but if you weaponize space, we're out of here, because you're on your own. Kind of, and it was, so I knew about the disclosure project with Dr. Greer, so I don't know how it ended. I don't know whether who signed it or what, but it was.
So this is based on, you got your flash drive? Did you bring it? All right. Anyway, this is based on your knowing that under their Inquisition operations, and under the doctrine of discovery, and of course, under the 14th Amendment, and expressed in House Joint Resolution 192, which we were just reading from, that the Pope, the United States Corporation Company, all of their operators, through their secret treaty agreement, have been actually submitting the nations to the Pope. And so the cover was, we're delivering the people to Jesus. That's the cover. The fact, they were submitting them to the Pope. This constitutes the Roman Curia. So all corporate entities are under the 14th Amendment, and they all are members of the Roman Curia. And this is why the leaders must all belong to secret societies, because they're not allowed to not know what's really going on. So their moral compass, they don't really fix things. They just keep sacrificing generations and sacrificing generations. Then the clergy's job is to soothe the people with keep hope alive type statements, when in background they get a kickback from Skull and Bones on the 501c3 and 501c4 type stuff, while pretending that they're separate. This is really the game, and it's always been the game. This is what they fear that the public is finally figuring out, because a few people can see through them, and they can't just keep killing everybody, even though they keep doing stuff. And so the deal of it is, knowing that they hypothecate everybody's property, and they accuse you of abandoning your property, this is a quick claim transfer. Now, an allodial, aboriginal, paramount, clear, perfect title of conveyance, or what is called an allodial, or an aboriginal title, you understand, is superior to the colonial deeds, etc. So they don't want to teach people about that. This is also why they want to teach people that they're aboriginal. Do you understand? And this is also why it's necessary for them to try to keep the people under the 14th Amendment, because it keeps them under their jurisdiction.
Yes.
So anything that they buy or sell automatically goes to the state. So this is where you're claiming your estate. See, because what they do, when you look at almost all your foreclosures, if you check out records, they're always listed as abandoned.
Yes. Yeah, they always say that.
They're claiming that you abandoned your estate. So if you create a trust, put your house in trust, and then make it for the record, no one can claim that you abandoned it. You make, go ahead.
And number two, it was mentioned that Drew Ali did create the trust, all right?
That's why he did it. Yeah.
He created. But what has happened to the temples? What has happened to the temples? There were supposed to be regencies, There were supposed to be governmental regencies. Whenever you had a problem, you were supposed to go to the temples to resolve your problems, okay? And that's where the trust lay in. But what has happened to the temples? What has happened? They've been infiltrated, okay? And corrupted.
A lot of them is 501Cs.
Well, that's but you already know that. But you already know that. Meaning that once you understand how things work, you're not surprised about anything. You're supposed to be active to fix it for the next generation. You're not supposed to let them fall into the traps. And the best way to do it is like Sis was saying, what is the key? Truth. Can you give her a hand?
Yeah.
Take that to you.
Wait now.
Grab that box first.
The key is to tell the truth. See, so if you, just like, for instance,
thank you very much.
He says, all right, and just like you brought the system on, right? Some of the other problems, even the psychological problems that people have, is because things that they experience are contradictory. But if you just expose the truth, those things, they wash away.
I call it the psychosis of religion, because I think religion does that to you.
It's dogmata.
It just messes with you so.
Because religion has been given a bad name when it's dogma.
Right.
It's sort of like money given a bad name when the problem is the fiat.
Fiat.
It's almost like we've been lied to so much that we got to watch what we're actually saying, because we discredit things that the people have never had. It's like saying, yeah, religion is really messed up. But people have never been given religion. They've been given dogma.
Yeah.
Counterfeit.
They don't have a true religion.
Religion. So then you must.
Thank you.
What it really is, just like, for instance, like people, they're given color laws instead of jurisprudence. But anyway, so this is essentially a general template that anyone can use, and all they have to do is change the coordinates, the names, etc. For people, Yeah, this is a private trust, international private trust. And see, so
Can you
now,
put more than just your
yeah,
house in it?
that's why we got the deed here, and then we got the trust, both of which we sent to you.
No.
Didn't you send it to him?
No, she
Oh, give me your flash drive anyway.
She's like,
Give me your
no.
flash drive, because you always got your stuff.
Yeah, everybody got a flash drive, you know, you got it. You change the coordinates, you change, you know, the title of your trust, because everybody has to create a private trust, you know?
But I wanted to go over this to
Yes.
give you all a flavor. But and again, just like we're talking, that's why you got to give people a knowledge of history, so because this might be interesting to anybody, but they don't make the connection.
Right.
You know, they look at it as an either or thing, when everybody needs to do this.
Yes.
But they must be competent, because they got to know what the real history is, because you can't just make up stuff, because the estate is Morocco.
Yeah.
You can't have a claim outside of that, and it's just what it is.
Yes.
And so if the people don't declare their nationality, they're in dishonor of their mothers and fathers, and the common law can't trump. Because that's what trumps the Roman law, the civil law, the canon law, and other systems of law, and goes back to antiquity. That's based on the honor of your mothers and fathers. That's the basis of your heritability.
So correct yourself.
This is why it's necessary for people who undermine this to keep creating brands and convincing people that people are colors. And as soon as you go into that paradigm and try to justify it, you've denied your own estate. And because you don't know law and estate law, you just think it's just people having competitive conversations from schools of thought. It has everything to do with your heritability. This is to bypass all the BS.
Where do you send that?
Well, I
No, you want to talk to me.
all right, I sent it 5 places because, quote unquote, I was supposed to have my property. My private property was supposed to have been sheriff sale, okay? Now that's not once but twice. November of 2013 they said it was sheriff sale, but I put in a document there. And then just February, there was another issue saying there was sheriff sale, okay? So how you gonna sell a property twice? But that's neither here nor there, okay? The point is that someone put a card in my door claiming to have purchased my private property, my ancestral estate, okay? So, in understanding what the motu proprio is, and this is the Roman Curia, okay? And since the Pope said the motu proprio, I'm not supporting, I'm rescinding all authority from your administrations, okay? Judges, all those doing business, you know, as mayors, you know, justices, judges, all that. He's rescinded. That's number one, okay? And then the second one was that he banned the Christian doctrine of discovery. So if you know these two things, what I did is I wrote to one of his legates. And if you look into the Black's Law Dictionary, you understand what a legate is. He's an administrator, a deputy, a knight of the Pope, okay? So who did I write to? In Philadelphia, I wrote to the Archbishop of Philadelphia, since he's a deputy knight of the Pope, okay? Then I wrote to the governor, okay? I wrote to the governor, and I wrote to the attorney general, because she's supposed to be over all the property, okay? Then I wrote to the sheriff, because he's the one that's supposedly
enforcing.
Yes, and then I sent it to a document to someone a person who was claiming my ancestral estate. And if you look at the document, it says Imperium. So I have the right to command this. I have a supreme claim to it. And if anybody has a supreme claim to it, rebut it. And it's in the document. Rebut it.
They can't.
And they can't.
There's ties to deed.
Okay.
And then,
So when you go to court, and if you have a bad sheriff, which we have these clowns that are sitting in these robes, they're doing what they want to do. Where's the teeth come in? I know they can't rebut it, but who's going to enforce our claims? Who's going to enforce our claims?
This is the deal. This is the deal. Let's look at this, really. Our major problem is that we haven't been making our claims. It is the common law that enforces it. It is society itself. We have not spoken up. See, when it says things like honor your mothers and your fathers, right? That is the common law. I'm going to go into the common law just in the law book, just to give you an idea, but you've got to have the capacity to kind of read between the lines. Now, and one of the reasons why I go to like the congressional records, etc., so that people can understand the politics, because they don't even understand how things are done to them. So they can't make the correlations.
So let me just so the sheriff wrote back and said, "We have your property. You know, come claim it."
Come claim it.
Yes.
Well, yes, you just done it.
We
No.
They say we may.
Yes, we may have your property. Okay.
So why they wanted you to come? You had your property, so why would you go to them?
Because all properties declared abandoned anyway. Because people don't take the deeds. See, remember when we take you to congressional records,
right.
House Joint Resolution 192. If you pay attention to the wording in it, what do they tell you in the House Joint Resolution? Let me show you this. Let me show you what's obvious. This is why we constantly. I think I talk loud enough. We constantly take people to the documents because they don't always relate to why we're on certain subject matter. Because they don't think it involves them. It involves every part of their lives. It's just that they're not informed. And so they're looking for you to make a prayer or something. And you don't need no prayer, you need information.
Yeah.
And you need to be active. Let that be your prayer. Let knowledge be your prayer.
The interesting thing would be, though, and I guess if they could look past the fezzes and the turbans, all these people, especially Moors, who've lost their properties, would realize that what they need to do is educate themselves and go about it in a collectively, maybe individually yet collectively, in the same manner, instead of going the route that they've gone through, trying to do mitigation and you know getting forbearances and so forth. That if they go this way as a collective, unified front, that you force the issue and you bring attention to it. Now, I'm not talking about necessarily going and claiming something that you never personally owned, but holding on to what you have based on.
See what people don't understand. Deeds that they get from the corporate state are not instruments of ownership. They're sharecropping instruments.
But they don't know that's education.
That's where the education comes in. You see the whole point?
Right.
Now let me bring something else to your attention. Now look at this. This is in that same congressional records, right? Look at this. Now keep in mind.
Did you give us that?
This is out of my lesson book.
Oh.
But I did give it to you in loose form. Now, this is directly from that same document from the congressional records, right? Now keep in mind, Noble Drawley set the old Canaanite Temple in 1913 to restore the estate. This is the counteraction to it. Prior to 1913, most Americans owned clear allodial title of property, free and clear of any liens or mortgages until the Federal Reserve Act 1913 hypothecated all property. So your stuff is already hypothecated. And what is the Moorish movement for? To get you out of that status and to reclaim your estate. If you don't fix the status, don't worry, don't talk about estate because you don't have it. Not because it's a matter of opinion. It's established within the people who are operating this government. Ignorance of that fact don't change what people believe in or what they don't believe in. And this is where Drew Ali has been misrepresented to the people. They think that's a religious guy. He's restoring their estate. This is why it's important for people to always misrepresent what the Moors are doing, because it's redeeming the people's right of claim, which is the basis of all their economic and political problems. They're not poor, they're just being robbed.
Yeah.
And they think they're going to believe themselves out of this or pray out of it, when they don't even understand what's going on.
So prior to 1913,
there you go. So now you see why you got an allodial title transfer? Right, but you can only be in your proper person to make that claim.
Naturally, yeah.
And you can't be a U.S. citizen because if you are, you're only going to come under the deeds and mortgages.
That's what it is.
So you've abandoned your birthright. You see the point?
Yes.
So we give people information so they can see why is it that we're making the argument. Because they keep assuming because we're talking these subject matters and nobody else is, that nobody knows this. Everybody in government knows this. The masses have been miseducated. They won't accept that they've been miseducated. And so when we bring it up, they try to make it look like we're out in left field doing some radical stuff, and we're telling the truth. What's it even in their own records?
Yep.
But they know these people won't read. They follow their leaders who are assigned as overseers. And all they got to say is Allah, Jesus, or Moses, and these people get teary-eyed and give them their lunch finance, giving them their mortgage money and stuff. They do.
So in a sense, really, the prophet did that before 25.
That's right. That's why he's called the prophet.
Yeah, before 25.
Because he taught it all, and he gave it to us ahead of time so we could prepare our families. And then he gave us reference points so that we would, you know, because everything, most of what he projected to the future.
Right.
But it came out just like he said it did. And this is why they call him a prophet. He said, you don't have to call me a prophet. You don't have to. You just call me a very good man. Go ahead and do what you do. And he prepared us, but the people didn't listen. Now they losing everything.
Sound like what they attributed to Jesus to me.
Of course.
Right.
But 1913, brother.
Yeah.
We didn't even know who we were.
Some did.
Most of us were had the thumb on us.
A lot didn't know. It's not that, so we've got to clear this up. They weren't allowed to talk about it publicly. You know, so people like Sweet Daddy, Grace, and other than probably mine, they would wear Moorish clothing in their chambers, or you put lions and like the house of, you know,
Prayer for all people.
yeah, they got the lion, and then they got the crescent and the star up there. They know, but you know, they're under pressure. You know, follow divine peace. You know, I mean, it's not. They all know, but it's like they know they get killed. You know, just like you know, Malik, you know, Hajj, Malcolm found out, Elijah and all them knew too. He got disappointed. But, you know, that's why they try to hide the picture of Elijah with his fez on. They all know. Everybody knows. The masses are the dummies. And the hard thing for people to accept is that they've been played. We just can't accept that we've been played. Well, we've been played. Get over ourselves and let's get some work done.
Yes, sir.
But because all the other things that we keep seeking to fix economically are not really going to happen. It's not that we can't do things, but we're spinning our wheels. Until you fix the root of the problem, you're done. Because the system is set up. Any transfers that you do through the fiat currency system and the steps that you go through, they're going to control everything and they'll just take your stuff. So get over yourself, start fixing this thing, and stop playing. And people keep on thinking they're going to get rich. It ain't going to happen. They're not going to allow it to happen. Babylon must fall first. But what they want to do, they want to try to figure out how to serve two master type things and get a benefit. They're not going to. They don't even respect their own allies. What do you think they think about you? Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Germany's their #1 ally. They stole their damn gold and then dropped them buildings. Come on. Anyway, but understand this, that prior to 13, and just like you talk to the average person now with economic problems or foreclosure problems, and you talk about allodial titles, they look at you, that's that Moorish stuff. No, that's the way things were before colonial operations. What point you keep talking about Jesus, God, Moses, and Allah, you don't even know the history here. You're going to keep talking about gods you don't know, you ain't never seen, and don't even know the things that's right in front of you that affect your people every day. Then you start all these marching and praying organizations to deal with the symptoms like you're fixing something when you know you damn ain't. Because you don't want to deal with the truth. Because you're scared of Rome, because he's really their God. That's really what it is. People don't want to deal with this because that's who they fear. They don't fear I only fear Jesus. And I only fear Allah. They full of crap. They fear Rome. They won't buy, they won't sell, they won't breathe, they won't move without a license from him because he's their God and they know it. They just don't want people to damage their dignity so they can pretend that their sacrifices is for Jesus or Allah, the Buddha. They full of crap. The Europeans, their God. There's nothing wrong with it. What's wrong is their denial. And they're sacrificing their babies. Do you understand what I'm saying? And then pretending that they're going to work in his system and get rich when they're not.
Josh, I got to ask you this though, brother.
Go ahead.
Once we establish our nationality. Right?
It's already been established. See, this is what, I hear what you're saying.
With them I'm talking about.
Listen. I know where you're going with that, but I want you to listen to your own language. They already know who you are. It's already established. Once you restore your right of claim to your own self. See, our whole mentality is that we're so disconnected, we keep acting like because it's not frontline conversation that you got to convince the world.
The world already knows.
They're the keepers of the, that's why once in a while we'll read George Washington's letter. Because our concepts are totally warped. Example, now notice how we're jumping around, but watch, but this is why this stuff is so important, concept-wise. But anyway, let me just go a little bit further down here for a second. Now, see, so these people are the economic slaves, they're 14th Amendment, etc.
I'm not. You got me started there, but I'm not all the way home with you yet.
So
concepts. Remember this, and this is why we're always talking to people. You've got to get to the level of not speaking of yourself in third-party perspective. We're still speaking of ourselves in third person, and so it's them. It's like a Chinese who's been told he was a light-skinned yellow guy all his life, and somebody spoils his whole belief system saying, "You're Chinese." Oh, I know some Chinese. What do you mean you know some Chinese? Well, we got to convince them that when we become Chinese, what do you mean? You always was. You was simply after lunch. You know, like the Wizard of Oz, Dorothy. You never left home. You just bumped your head. You were home all the time. This is why we even take them to King Alfred. We take him to the military document. Look, let me show you something else. Take it to the military document.
I'm not there
That's an example.
yet. I'm not there yet. But
that's all of us.
Even waking up as the Wizard of Oz, we still have to deal with the fact we were asleep, but they know who we are, but they're,
all you have to do is take these children to George Washington's Masonic Lodge and don't say anything, just take them on tour. And if they ain't figured it out by then, they don't have to say anything. You just expose them to things. And we have to come to the realization everybody knew but you. It's hard for us to accept that the joke is on us. Because we have been so strong in our beliefs of our personal relationship with God, Jesus, Allah, Muhammad, Buddha, and all the spirit realm and all this stuff. And we've been good hypocrites.
We've been played. Especially
and we've been older. You understand what I'm saying to you? And then it's kind of uncomfortable to kind of examine yourself and kind of not only recognize that you've been a hypocrite, but everybody knew this all the time. You straight in the eye knew it.
But
this is why we even take people to an ordinary child dictionary and show them that they're wars.
But help me, because please, I want to get where you're at. I want to get where you're at. But
this is what I'm saying. Yes.
I'm understanding what you're saying.
Intellectually.
Yeah, I'm understanding.
Yes.
But what makes
the
Europeans who know who we are
honor
us and give and let us have what we have then.
Collectively. Much has to do when we humble ourselves and accept that we've been played. and then begin to learn, to open up. Nature just simply purges you. She begins to wash you. And it's not spooky. You just start being yourself.
But what's my
sister? You gotta be yourself.
You be yourself.
But what's my sister going to do when the sheriff said
they
may have
mercy on people? Listen, this is what they say. When they say you can't serve two masters,
you just can't.
They mean it. When you see the term in the Bible when it says, for these same people say they know that Bible, right? It says two will be in the field, one will be taken, the other will be left. If your right arm offends you, cut it off. What does that tell you? You get caught up in whether it's your sister, your brother, or something like that. Nature doesn't deal with that. Nature deals with merit and principle. She won her estate? Good. Same rule applies. Honor your mothers and your fathers. I don't want to honor my mother and father, but I want the estate. Well, they're not going to argue it.
They're not going to argue with her.
Then it's not. No. You just eliminated yourself.
Okay.
And I'm just telling you what it is. Now, what we get biased because of relationships. But divine law doesn't recognize person or station. The sooner we come to that realization, the sooner we humble ourselves and deal with principles. Knowledge and principles are the salvation. Beliefs are not. Beliefs are drugs. Do you understand? That's all it is. It's just drugs. Now let me show you something.
You still can't?
No, relevant. I mean, unless you know about this trust before. Listen, I mean, I've been fighting up with these cats for years. I'm just saying, now they're going to just say, okay, here it is. Is that what they're going to do with you?
No, because see, like, I look at it like, all right, I went to the airport, I gave him my bag, all right, and I flew where I wanted to go, and I got the claim check, okay, for the bag, okay? But I left the bag down at the airport. I ain't go back and get it, you know? And after so many days, months, years, it's listed as abandoned, and what they do, they sell it, okay? So, but I got the claim check, and the claim check would be my trust, okay? Because it's only two things. You're either a ward of the state or you're a lodial, okay? That's all it is. You're a ward of the state.
In other words, you're either feudal or you're a lodial.
I understand that.
See, the republic that we talked about earlier is based in the lodial law. That's why Obama went to Junta and he supposedly said the American Constitution is derived from Muslim law. I mean, what? Now, so then he went to Article 11 of the Treaty of Tripoli, which goes right to the Treaty of Peace and Friendship. That supersedes the Constitution. Now, he ain't beat around the bush. He went straight to it. So, number one, people can't say that he didn't say. The international community addressed it with the rights of indigenous people, rights of a child, Universal Proclamation of Human Rights, all of which states for these people to declare their nationality. International community, with the charge that all church groups, civic groups, etc., dispense this information at all costs. Look at this room.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been doing this for years. She's been sacrificing her time, I've been sacrificing my time. It ain't been about the fiat, it's been about getting the job done.
Right.
Because it's divine work. It is for them.
And
if the old don't want it, fine. We're going to give them a chance. And if we give them the information, they're not compromised with, oh, they're going to fire me if I tell the truth. Which is an admission that the man is corrupt and that he don't want the truth out, and they've been participating in helping not to get the truth out, but then they want to talk about what's happening to their youth. That's hypocrisy. They're sacrificing their babies and then trying to act like everybody, the world's doing something to them. We got to start an organization for esteem. No, you need to stop the BS that you're participating in.
Yeah,
you know, stop making your babies sick. You don't need no right to organization. Yeah. You send the resources for that. Spend the resources to tell the truth.
Yeah.
Take the same air to tell the truth that does tell a lie. Yeah. Anyway.
I'm with you.
And again, and I'll show you again, even, you know, when Hillary spoke from the Ben Franklin room, who was minister plenipotentiary, right? But keep this in mind.
Which book is that?
This is the treaty book.
Oh.
Treaty of Peace and Friendship. And I put them together so that people can understand that the treaty and the Constitution are looked at as one document, not as separate documents. Now, so here we got George Washington, right? George Washington in his Masonic garb, right? Didn't George Washington tell that day, he said, "Madam, you now have a republic if you're willing to keep it."
Keep it, yeah.
This is the republic. That other frontline politics is the democracy that they asked for and they got, and they ain't happy, are they? But they don't want the truth because it doesn't fit their beliefs.
George Washington the Moor?
No, George Washington's a Mason. They all must be, because the land is Morocco. So as you can see, now, what do they teach you in school? They teach you in school that George Washington was the first president, didn't they? Now, you have intelligence, don't you? You can read, right? Do us a favor. Step up here just a minute. And I want you to read this to us adults. Now, imagine that this room is filled, right? Mm-hmm. Now, come on over. Now, you can choose to read from here or you can read from here. Now, read it out loud. This is your assignment. We're in the audience. We're in the audience, right? In the auditorium. And you're just up here making a commencement speech, right? Not a speech, you're talking document, right? Now read that.
Since the date of the letter, since the date of the letter which the late Congress, by their president, addressed to your Imperial
Majesty. Now stop right there. So the first sentence shows you that from his own letter that he wasn't the first president. He's talking about late government and late president. So immediately with the first line, you destroyed history as it's been taught to the masses. Now you see why Masonry is a secret? Why? Because you're the Masonic secret. You are. Are you beginning, without us going any further, are you beginning to recognize that you've been lied to? So as you can see, now who is this to? Now keep in mind, you go to school, when was George Washington assigned to the palace? What was the date that he was assigned to the palace? I'll tell you, cut through the chase. April the 30th, 1789. What is that letter dated as? The date of that letter. City of New York. December 1st, 1789. So that means he's been in office for a matter of months. From April to December when this letter is written. Right? And so you can see, who's the letter to? Muhammad ibn Abdullah, Sultan of Morocco. But yet these people don't know who the Moors are, right? Do you understand? And you want to convince them? You need to convince you. Do you want?
And to that point, we was reading the coinage act of 1792.
Yeah.
And the coinage act, when he was saying that it was a company.
Of course.
Corporation.
Of course. It's never been a secret. We have not paid attention.
Is this the book of the Treaty of Friendship? Is this what you're reading?